Ridgeland is a quiet city devoid of crimes, especially crimes like homicide. This experience is one of the worst to ever hit the city, and nothing prepares the detective in the city for hit them on January 8, 2010. As the details start unveiling, the detectives on the case realize that they are dealing with people so sinister that bringing them to justice might not be enough. Hello, today I explore the brutal murder of a young lady with planned future ahead of her, but she suffered the horrific end consequence. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. On the night of January 8, 2010, the 911 office gets a call which can be said to be a game changer, one which changes the lives of every detective who is assigned to work on the case, and one that is unexpected and unprecedented. It's a call from Michael, who lives as Ridgeland. He tells the attendant that a man has broken into his apartment and his PlayStation has been stolen. I guess it would have been easier if it was just the PlayStation. However, his girlfriend has been killed. For a small city like Ridgeland, cases of homicides can be said to be rated, and it's majorly unseen, and this case is of the most importance. As protocol, a detective, Dillard, is called to work on the case. Dillard says as a detective, he feels a kind of way before cases are brought to his hearing. It seems like an impulse telling him something will soon be wrong, and that's the case this time. He receives a call from his boss, and he is informed about the case. He hurriedly drives towards the crime scene with his heart in his mouth. He gets to the crime scene, where he meets Miles, the commander of the investigation unit of the police department. Together with Miles, Dillard has the responsibility to solve this case. The victim is a 22-year-old young girl, Carman Sanders, a young girl who hails from Mississippi. She has great hopes for her future, and everyone knows about her plans and dedication. She is a medical student at Mississippi School, and she is known to be friendly. She is dating Michael Mason, the one who called the police, and the first thing to do in a case like this is to check the crime scene. Upon entering the house, there is no sign of forced entry by the door, which discredits Michael's accusation that his home was broken. However, the room is scattered, and clothes are everywhere, raising further questions about whether their home is always like that. Also, the room is dusty, and every part is dirty except under the table, where it can be assumed that the stolen PlayStation is kept. After checking the premise, Dillard and Miles enter the room to check the corpse. She is lying on the floor with a blanket all over her, and inside her stomach is a knife. It could be seen that there was physical alteration before the death because the room is scattered, the mirror is broken, the bed is scattered, and the victim is lying on the floor with her eyes wide open. There is a significance of the eyes. The thought that the eyes know what had happened. The eyes have seen the culprit, but they can't talk or reveal it. As Dillard searches beside her, he sees another knife. A smaller version of the first, and it's a broken knife. He takes the knife as evidence as he calls the forensics. Also, it isn't rare that culprits of stabbing cases mistakenly cut themselves in the process, so the blood in that room might not belong to only Carman. Hence all the blood will be taken to the lab. Another police officer calls Dillard's attention to the kitchen. In the kitchen, he sees the knife drawer open. Also, detergents from the dishwasher are spilled all over the kitchen. That shows that the perpetrator of such a crime is quite knowledgeable about it. Either he is an ex-convict or someone that has stayed in custody with criminals. The next thing to be examined is her car. Her car is by the park, and there is no sign that the vehicle is involved. Inside the car is Carman's bag, a bag that is a close part of a woman's clothing, so the bag in the car signifies that she doesn't intend to stay long inside the house. After sending all the evidences to forensics, as the good detective that Dillard is, he needs to listen to the emergency call. As he listens to it, he realizes how cool Michael sounds. In fact, the first thing he makes mentions is his PlayStation, and the dead girlfriend seems like an afterthought. With this, it seems like Michael killed his girlfriend and then takes away his PlayStation to make it seem like a robbery gone wrong. As Dillard leaves to interrogate Michelle, he hears noises from the police station. It's Elizabeth Sanders, Carman's mother. She screams, "My baby is dead. Michael has killed my baby." With the pain in her words, it's obvious she is very close with her daughter. This catches Dillard's interest, and he asks a very dedicated female police officer, Dotson, to investigate how the relationship between Michael and Carman. Dotson interrogates Elizabeth, who says her daughter is the most peaceful person. Her relationship with Michael had been wrong, and she has been living with him for convenience and to reduce her rent. However, they get into alterations because Michael brings his friends home every time, and they play music and play games, distracting her from reading. He is jealous and violent. He hacked Carman's email, where he claims she is cheating on him with a guy, and this leads to a fight between them, and he pushes her away. This violent act pulls her mother out, and they plan how she will leave his home. According to her, Michael doesn't know about the plan until she hears Carman died, and she presumes that since he tails her emails, he must have found out, and maybe that's why he killed her. This interrogation cements Dillard suspicious, and he calls Michael. However, the Michael he meets is different from the one he has assumed. This Michael is pained about Carmen's death, although he doesn't deny all of their arguments. He says he found out she is cheating on him with her ex-boyfriend Chris Baker in Mississippi, and in the email he has read, she says the boy is her soulmate. He says he was at work on the night of the incident. He works at a middle school during the day, and after closing at 3:30 p.m., he goes to his second job, leaving around 11 p.m. He says that when he got home, the house was a mess, with his booth thrown around. He enters the room and sees her on the floor, then assumes she is playing. He removes the blanket and sees her body. He runs out to call the police. As expected, Dillard asks him how he could find out his PlayStation is missing if he left immediately after seeing her body. He tells him his PlayStation is his second girlfriend, and he will notice. Dillard tries to confirm his alibi. After calling the school and his side gig, they realize he is telling the truth. With Michael out of their suspect list, they imagine other circumstances. Since there was no forced entry, Carman probably came into the house with the perpetrator, which leaves the team with another suspect, the supposed ex-boyfriend, Chris Baker. Also, Dillard receives a call from the coroner that the result from the corpse is out. They find out Carman was stabbed multiple times. There are signs of over 15 stabs. Despite being slightly undressed, there was no sexual assault. Also, the main cause of death is the knife that broke inside her. The knife found on her body is an afterthought of the perpetrator. At this point, the next suspect is Chris. Dillard goes for the investigation, and on first look at him, he doesn't look guilty. He has so much compassion for Carman and asks how the murder happened. He tells Dillard that he met Carman when he was at school, and they broke up with no bad blood. He knew she was in a relationship with Michael, and he was okay with it. He wished her well, and the last mail was to tell her that if she wishes to come back, there is always a space for her. When asked where he was on the night of the crime, he says he was home. He stays about 180 miles away from the crime zone, and his phone shows he is far from the crime zone. With Baker being out of the suspect list, Dillard is back to square one. He needs to go back to all the evidences and finds new loopholes. He goes in search of this, and he decides to find some of Michael's friends who visit his house. He sees one of Michael's friends, Robert Harvey. Immediately he sees the name. It rings a bell to him. He meets one of his colleagues, Martin, and tells him the name. Martin recognizes the name because they had once gone to issue a warrant to Robert before he fled. The warrant was for sexual assault, and before they got to him, he had relocated to Florida. The victim of the assault was a young girl who met him at a bar. They got friendly, and he convinced her to visit him. As she enters, he tries to touch her. He threatens to kill her, and she figures if she doesn't do his will, she will die, so she gives in. Robert is also prominent among prostitutes, who have all said he is controlling in bed. Not only that, Robert is an ex-convict. He once strangled the mother of his children with a telephone rope in 1996, was convicted and sentenced to 30 years imprisonment, but he was released after 5 years due to prison overpopulation. Strangulation and stabbing are both crimes of the same reaction. The culprit wants to create dominance, see the victim suffer, and want to take the life out of them. It is no doubt Robert is the culprit. However, there is no evidence against him, and they know Robert will flee if he knows he is a suspect, so they call his mother, Carolyn, for interrogation. Carolyn is close with Dotson, so Dotson calls her, and Carolyn says the keys to the interrogation that hasn't been kept online. This makes the officers convinced that she would only hear it from her son, who is the culprit. They decide to stalk Robert till a perfect time. He falls into their trap when he drives an unregistered car with his driving warrant suspended. He is taken into custody, and Dillard interrogates him. When Dillard asks about Carman, he says he has never met Carman before, and he went to visit a female friend on the night of the incident. Dillard goes to confirm his alibi, but the friend says she hasn't heard from him in years. As Dillard returns and tells him this, Robert changes his statement. He says he has been seeing Carman for over 3 months without Michael's knowledge, and when he gets to her that night for sex, he sees her dead. He runs out immediately. To break his feeble excuse, Dillard tells him his DNA was found on the knife. He says it's a mistake as he touches the knife to confirm. At that point, Dillard asks him if there are any tattoos on Carman, but he says no. When Dillard tells him Carman has tattoos, he says she wears a shirt with him. At this point, it's obvious he is lying. The cat is out of the bag. He went to Carman when he saw her entering the house that evening. He attempts to touch her, and she stops him, which is why he stabs her repeatedly. With Carman down on the floor, he takes his time to go to the kitchen and pick another knife, which he stabs her dead body so hard that it scratches the floor. A violent blitz attack. On May 2011, Robert was convicted of the offense and sentenced to life imprisonment. A decision that doesn't seem quite favorable for Dillard. as Dillard had wished for a death penalty. Irrespective of that, the detectives were successful in their investigation, and, unfortunately, a good life had to be taken away, and this case closed. Our thoughts and prayers go to those who suffered under the hands of this particular man. If you want to watch more true crime documentaries, then click any video of them. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for great content and enjoy more. See you soon.